Hello and welcome to the Lead Generation Strategies podcast. I'm your host here, Joey Myers, over at Lead Generation SEO Services.com. And today I have Sean Leeway from CVPM, or Core Value Property Management. And we're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff. But first, let me welcome you to the show, Sean.
Thanks, Joey. It's great to meet you.
And it looks like you've done the Zoom thing quite a few times. You got a good, cool branding background back there, and I love that.
Yeah, I did some local virtual networking through COVID and kind of got used to this media.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, I want to start with a little bit of what's in the news right now and I'm sure you probably talked a lot with your colleagues and others on the rate hikes in the mortgage interest rate hikes. Now, I know you're in the property management field. Can you just kind of explain how that affects you guys, or just kind of your thoughts on that?
So I would say, I think it's affecting us. It's affecting rent prices. I think I'm starting to see a little bit of resistance to rent price increases now that the rates have started to go up, just as kind of like a balancing, as property values surged, I saw rent prices go up, not quite the same amount, but pretty parallel. Mm-hmm. And then now that downward pressure is starting to come around, I'm seeing that on the rent prices too.
Interesting. So is that just something that's been like gradual, or has it been like, because it's happened within the last month or so, things have been starting to the hike. Has it been gradual, or has it been more like immediate?
It's been pretty, like, over the last 2 months, I've started to see properties on a little bit longer. I've started to even see a couple of properties while I'm doing research that have been reduced in rent price. I have one that I'll likely be reducing here soon, $50 or so on a $2850 property. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely like I'm seeing some of that pressure.
Right. Very cool. And then, it's also interesting to know, for those that are listening, that Sean's out in Maryland. So for those out there, out that way, this is where the contact's going to come in. I'm sure it's different in California, Texas, that kind of thing. Yeah. But, some of the things I'm hearing from real estate people from all spectrums, from the buy sell to the property management to commercial, is that it's affecting really everybody. It's similar. Where the increase and decrease might be a little bit different, but it seems to be kind of a industry-wide thing. Is that what you're seeing?
I can only speak for the property management side, but yeah, I'm definitely feeling it more and more.
Very cool. So what's one of the biggest problems that you guys solve over there at Core Value Property Management?
I think one of the biggest is we have a primarily first-time landlord client. A lot of my clients are military in the area, so we kind of sit right inside the DC, Annapolis, and Baltimore triangle, right? And so we're kind of like right in the middle of that. So I have a lot of my owners are military, veteran, mm-hmm. federal, or somehow affiliated. They move to this area, they buy a home, a few years down the road, they get told they need to go somewhere else for work, and then they have the home, and it's a good area, it's a good market, it's a little expensive. So coming in as an investor, you're going to get a better value in, maybe a cheaper market. But once you already have a home and you lived in it, turning it into a rental is usually a pretty good investment in this area, because you have a solid market for renters. Mm-hmm. And so our biggest challenge is helping new landlords understand everything that goes into that. Like when you're setting up a property to be a rental property, you're almost starting a small business. Mm-hmm. And you need to have cash for repairs, and that upfront to get everything situated and get it, on the market and rented. And then you'll have maintenance costs, and like helping people understand, like, hey, if you're going to go into this, go into it with eyes wide open. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is helping people understand that.
So you guys have a very unique situation. And Sean, are you a member of the military or former member?
I'm a retired Air Force. I did 20 years in the Air Force, retired in 2020. It's kind of how I got started in property management. Mm-hmm. So I was stationed here in 2013. We bought a home. Couple years later, we got orders to move, and I was in that same situation. I was trying to find a property manager, and we didn't quite find one we felt like we could trust, or we agreed with all of their fees. And so I was like, well, might as well do it myself. And so we did that with some help. We had I had a friend who was a landlord, and he's like, here's a couple resources, you can figure it out for yourself, but, kind of pushed me in the right direction. Then when we came back to the area, we ended up buying another home because this one was still rented. And I was like, but I kind of liked the process, right? I liked the idea, the management of it. I liked the long-term relationship aspect of it. And so I was like, well, why don't I do property management as a service when I retire? And so the more I thought about it, kind of kicked the ball around with a couple friends. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey, I just got orders to Korea. Are you going to do that property management thing? And I was like, yeah, hold on, let me start my business real quick. And that's like, literally, that's how we got started in 2019. I'm still managing his property now. And I mean, I only had one property for 6 months, right? Like I wasn't like day one, let's go. It was like a kind of a bootstrap, like just starting a small business out of a need, and grew from there.
I love that. Yeah. And thank you for your service, Sean. My dad was Air Force. He served over in Vietnam. And then I think he was a lifer. So he was there for probably 40 years. And then when he retired, he worked as a civilian for the Army Guard for like 10 years. So he just, it's such a great, especially back in the day, it was such a great process that they had, and everything was organized, and we had a lot of good memories with that. So yeah, appreciate your service, especially with the 4th of July coming up here.
Thanks.
So on the COVID side, so you came into this 2019, at least officially.
Yeah.
And then you had about a year, and then you had the 2020 hit. So what kind of challenges did you face trying to start a company, property management company that year?
So yeah, I was small enough, and it was my side hustle still at the time, that it wasn't like, what do I do? I lost all of my income.
Right.
But we saw an immediate stop to any new business, right? Like we were getting, a few leads a month, and maybe signing a contract or two by that time, like each month. And when COVID hit and everything shut down, like it was like 3 or 4 months, until people started moving again, that nobody needed a property manager because nobody was leaving anywhere. And so then once things started to open back up, I started to see, more new business come in. And so, yeah, I mean, initially I would, I was trying to see if I could get people to apply before coming to see a home. That way I knew who I was going to meet, and I kind of already had them pre-qualified, and, it was just a matter of, is the property right for them? But that didn't last very long. A lot of people, there was pushback on it. And so we kind of settled for some like pre-qualification way of vetting people interested in the property. That way, we weren't wasting anybody's time, making sure they hit our rental requirements, and just making sure people knew what those were coming in. And then the thing that I've kept, though, since COVID started was we don't do open houses anymore. We do 15-minute appointments. And it's one-on-one. I walk through with that person. I schedule them out, and, usually I'll do like a 2-hour block of time, and I'll do 8 appointments for a property that we have available. And I'll, get through everybody. And then, if they want to apply, we go from there.
So a little bit more of a unique touch. So it almost sounds like that like I'm seeing with other companies around the nation, other real estate companies, is that the 2020 thing forced us all to think a little bit more creatively. And do you feel like that little one-on-one, that even though it's 15 minutes, that one-on-one is much better than the blast from the furnace, the open house type of scenario?
I mean, I think they each have their value. I think for property management, I like it because, when a realtor sells a house, and just, I'm not a realtor, so I'm not licensed or do that. But when they sell a house, it's like the transaction's complete. and the relationship is over, you know, unless they need new services and they're there, of course, you know, they'll take care of people. But my transaction is a year long typically, right? And so part of that is building and maintaining a good relationship. And so you know, you get a chance to meet people and you know, make sure that the person that you're, you know, going into it with, you know, one is qualified, but if you have multiple qualified people, you still have to pick, you know, the best candidate for the owner. And I think part of that goes a little ways into, you know, how people, you know, and when I say work together, if I set a 15-minute appointment and somebody shows up late, that's a potential indication that something else might be late, right? Like if you're faithful in something small, more than likely you can be faithful in something large. And so like, it's little like personality things that I cue in on, right? Like, you know, there's the stuff that they're telling me honest, and, you know, I'll marry that up with what kind of applications I get. And, you know, so I try to approach things as the best way I can and make sure that, you know, I'm going to find a good tenant for my owners.
I think that's a great thing that came out of it. And I agree with you. I think that's a much better way, especially when it comes to the property management side of things, versus say, like you said, with an agent and open house. And one of the pieces of advice I got a while back when I was in real estate, 2008, or 2006 to 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there, is there was a broker investor in town that we were doing like an investor networking group. You know, we were meeting once a week or whatever. And he said that when he rents out his best renters, and he would do this for everybody, so you obviously can't discriminate based on gender, sex, whatever. But he would say in the property management agreement, if they, you know, when they apply, that they were subject to them visiting their house, the current house or apartment that they're living in within 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever. I think it's 24 hours. And they're subject to that. And that's everybody. So they're not saying only these kind of people and these kind of people. So it's everybody. And he told me, he said, hey, if I go to that house and they got roaches, most likely we're going to have roaches. So it's the same. And I think it was him, or maybe it was somebody else. Same thing with the car. Like you go out to their car, or you see their car and it's a mess inside their car, or, you know, people are granted obviously on the outside, you know, maybe they got a car wash or rain, you know, it's bad, but the inside of the car is a different thing. Like I keep the inside of my car super clean. I rarely have trash in there, you know? And so when you see that, is that some of the stuff that you're picking up on too with these 15 minutes?
Yep. Everything plays a part, right? So it's the total, you know, like I said, it's a relationship. You know, like my job is to make sure that, you know, the property is safe and secure and you know, taken care of on behalf of the owner, maintenance wise and other, but it's also to make sure that our tenants have a good place to live. Right. And if you've ever had to deal with landlord tenant relations, you know, and I'm sure you've read stories and some of your audience has, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And I think a lot of it is, you know, sometimes it's miscommunication, sometimes it's, you know, poor or no communication. Sometimes it's, you know, oh, that wasn't stipulated in a lease. Like I see so many people coming into this industry or investors and whatnot, and they're like, so I have this situation and what do I do? And blah, blah, blah. And like invariably all of the seasoned people are, what does your lease say? You know, like, what did you guys agree on when you went into this? And that's a very important thing, is like, you know, making sure you have a good, strong lease that's, you know, enforceable. Working with a lawyer is a great idea. When I started, I kind of hobbled together something, and it was okay getting started for like 1 or 2 properties or myself for my own property. But, you know, I quickly realized, no, let's get somebody to pay a lawyer to go through and put this together well and make sure it's enforceable, make sure everything's clear as possible to have a good, strong agreement that protects both sides. You know, and that's what we try to do.
Very cool. Yeah, you don't want to pretend to be a lawyer. You want to let the lawyers do their lawyering, as they say.
Yes.
Now this wouldn't be the lead generation strategies podcast without going into lead generation strategies.
Yes.
So, how do your clients typically connect with you? Like, how do you market lead generation wise? Is it more referral based? Are you
Yeah. So we don't do any traditional marketing currently. I've done a couple of Facebook kind of things early on when I was getting started. I did a Google pay-per-click that was, very like $50 of advertise, like wasn't much, right? It lasted maybe a week or two. And I didn't see any results, but it was early on. And so kind of looking at that, I was like, well, one, I'm starting this as a side hustle. I don't want to grow too fast. So let's not go down that road. And so how I built my online presence was a lot of just, like I said, making sure I'm doing a good job, making sure I'm serving my clients well. And then I'll ask them like, hey, if I've done a great job for you, please, throw up a review for us on Google. That would be, helpful, right? Because a lot of people look for, services and whatnot via Google. So having a good Google presence has helped. I probably see anywhere from 40 to 50% of my new clients come in from through my online web portal. And it's a growing portion of my new leads. And I hear a lot of people who reach out to me either via my website or calling, say like, oh, I looked up your company. I looked up the reviews that you guys have, and, like I saw some of the videos that you've posted. Cause I did, like, when I was doing my networking, I would, if I was doing a presentation, I'd record that, and that's online. And so people are smart, they do research, they look at, who they're hiring, especially in a position like property management, where again, you're trusting somebody, typically, if you're a new investor with one of your largest investments, for a lot of the homeowners, it's their only home that they own. So that's a big investment. And, then making sure that their home is taken care of and that the money is managed appropriately, and the work gets done. It's a lot for some people to take on. And so like finding somebody you can trust is a big part of that. And so that's kind of like why when I was getting started and trying to think of, our name, for the company, Core Value Property Management, that kind of pulls in some of my my military experience. In every branch of service has core values, and the Air Force is integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all you do. And so I was thinking about that. I had a situation at work that I was dealing with, and I wanted to make sure that got handled appropriately. And then I was kind of thinking about, well, like, okay, so core values, like it's a big part of the military and whatnot. And I wanted to bring that with me to property management, because I wanted somebody to have a property manager that they could trust, right? That's going to do the best job for them, and that's going to serve them well. And so that I was like, well, why don't I do like core value property management? And I kind of kicked that around a little bit, and I, talked to my wife and partner, and she's like, yeah, I like that. And so core value property management. It's funny, whenever I get a military client or new military client, they're like, hey, did you get that from Core Values? And I was like, yes, I did. And so it already speaks to the, my primary client, the people like that I want to be there to serve, is like those military who get stationed here, who are looking for a property manager to take care of their home while they're away, that they may or may not be able to come back to at some point in the future if they come back here. I want them to have that option. And that, like I said, that's why I got started, and it kind of just, all built out of that. But sorry, I got sidetracked. Back to your original question of lead generation. So Google's been a big part of that. Networking, local networking with industry adjacent, like insurance or real estate, or even like lawyers in estate law. Like they'll have, somebody will inherit a home and then they got to figure out what to do with it. So networking and just making sure that I create a good presence online where, if somebody needs something, I come up.
Now, when you talk about networking with real estate or attorneys, state, are you going and just kind of going down the line, calling them, saying, "Hey, if you're,"
No.
or how you do? How's that going? How's that look?
So I am getting too much new business to go through that. So I mean, I'm kind of like a, serendipity kind of guy, right? Like if I get introduced like I'm a part of the local Chamber of Commerce, right? The Greater Crofton Chamber of Commerce. So I'll go to networking events with them. I met my lawyer through there. I've met some real estate agents through there, met other business owners through there. And you just, if you're in the local community and you meet good people, you get in touch with them and you talk to them more. But I don't actively go through, and I'm not the traditional like grind out new business. I'm the, let me do a good job, let my customers speak for me, and then other customers will come. And as I'm growing, if I get to the point where if I want to or need to grow faster, and I have the bandwidth to do it, then I would go do, the next level. But I'm averaging 2 to 3 new contracts a month over the course of the year, which for me as a small business guy, that's plenty of growth for me. And if I can maintain that net positive, 25 to 30 properties over the course of a year, that's good, solid growth.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then like, what would you say right now with what you have, your infrastructure, what would be where you're like the wheels are starting to come off, like business wise? How much business in a perfect world?
Yeah. So if I was not taking on any new business and I just said, okay, I've reached this plateau, we could probably handle on our own about 100-ish, maybe 125 for between me and my wife. And that would be like working 40, 50 hour, 60-hour weeks.
Right.
But if you new business is always more work, right? Because you have the initial contract, the going to visit the property, then you have all of the turnover between the owner or the current tenant and the new tenant, getting all the marketing done, leasing, showing the property, screening the applicant. Like it's a lot of new work every time you turn over a property. But like if you add new business in there too, then it gets, it's a lot of extra work. So if we're just maintaining probably 100, 125, in this market, that would probably be about, I average about $300 to $3,500 per year per contract. So you can do your simple math off of that, right? So I mean, it's enough to not going to be balling out, whatnot, but it's enough to make a good living. And like I said, that's good job, fair price.
Well, and also too, I mean, if you decide you wanted to scale that and you started hiring on people to take care of that first part, I mean, you can always scale that. You're just talking about you and your wife and your partner, basically running how much it would be. Yeah. Very cool. Well, before we get to where people can find you and website and all that stuff, I have one last question. If someone were getting into your industry, what advice would you give them? Maybe the top 1 or 2 tips.
So soft skills are extremely important in this industry. Communication, showing up on time, calling somebody back, organization. And I think I was talking with another property manager, systems. Property management is all about systems. If you can stay organized, keep track of your data, that's going to be what you need to figure out. And then I put this in one of my other ones. I kind of liked it. Flexibility is the key to air power and property management. So it's like if you can be flexible, right? Like know what you're worth but be flexible within that space of, working with your customer to make sure that they get taken care of.
Love that. So Sean, where can people find you? Website, social media, all that
so the website you can see is on my part right over here, corevaluepm.com. It's we're on Facebook, Core Value Property Management. I don't do as much on there as I used to because I don't have time. I'd rather take care of people than keep up my social media postings. But we do have a presence there. We're in Crofton, Maryland, based in Crofton, Maryland, but we serve Anne Arundel County. So if somebody's in the Anne Arundel County area of Maryland and needs a property manager, I'd love to be able to chat with them.
And that's and really the target people, like you said, were first time landlords. So you got military, obviously, investors. I
do have a few investors, like I said, people I've either inherited a property or bought a property. So I have a couple of investors. I have one that has like 4 properties. I've talked to a few other investors. I don't know if it's the way I do business or whatnot. They haven't signed up with, or if it was because I was too small and I didn't have some of the adjacent services, like maybe they wanted a realtor that could help them buy as well, right? Like I'm a smaller guy, so, and I recognize that, but yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And that may come with time. That might be part of your core values where you decide you want to add that on, or maybe not. Maybe you just want to be very niche based, and you know, so it's all kind of comes with growing the company. So I love everything that you shared today, Sean, and I'm sure there's a lot of good advice for those that may be thinking about getting into the industry, you know, the property management industry, or even for realtors out there, whether they're brokers or agents, that they can talk to their clients a little bit more intelligently, you know, possibly their investors or things like that on property management. So I appreciate your time here today.
Thanks, Joey. Thanks for having me on.
You got it.